Our next subject is managing big data in cloud. So we're doing the double hype here of combining big data with cloud and seeing what we get out of that. We have a distinguished panel here with us. I'll just introduce them by name to start out, and then we'll ask each of them to tell us a little bit about their background in terms of this topic in particular. So immediately to my left, we have Paul Hofmann, who is the Chief Technology Officer of Saffron Technology. We have Charles Fan, who actually is not Patricia, but Patricia could not make it. She had an illness in her family and was not able to travel. So Charles has agreed to step in. Charles Fan is the Senior VP of R&D with VMware. And to his left, we have Piyush Malik. Piyush is the Big Data Services Leader at IBM Global Business Services. So we'll ask each of them just to start us out by giving a little more information than their title and the background, and especially in relation to this topic, roles within their company, and maybe even some introductory comments on your views of the topic overall. So Paul, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Okay. Nice to meet you. My name is Paul Hofmann. I am the CTO of Saffron Technology. I worked before at SAP. I was the VP R&D here in Palo Alto in the labs. And Saffron Technology is the big data company. We analyze huge amounts of data, hybrid data from your business warehouse, transactional data, and we combine it with sentiment, with what people think, with network effects from the social, and then we do predictive analytics. And our main focus is on risk. We are in the Department of Defense, in the national security community, and in a couple of Fortune 500 companies, and there we do risk, global risk, competitive risk analysis, market intelligence, and also consumer risk. One of our customers is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and there we analyze in real time when an email, for instance, comes in, if the email is from a person that is a threat, or the organization the person belongs to is a threat to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in real time. We do a prediction, a real-time prediction, and then if this person is above a certain threshold, it goes to an intelligence team which then analyzes in a deep dive why and does things like that. We also do, Boeing is one of our customers where they have a lot of applications. For instance, we do their predictive maintenance for airplanes, and that's what it is. And my general take on big data is it's the future. It's the golden age, the information age, and in the panel before, Steve said it, big data is the biggest natural resource, which is artificial, and it is growing the fastest. It grows like Moore's law. Every 18 months, it doubles. And at the moment, we generate more data than we can store, leave alone being able to analyze it. So there is gold to be found in the big data, in the data that is left behind when organizations churn away. We will be much more efficient. We'll be able to talk to our customers. I mean, I envision a future there will be no Google anymore, or probably not even Facebook. There will be more like Yelps and Scouts, which tell us where to shop and what. It will be a huge change, and corporations will be many times more efficient. Think about, and that was my last point then, because otherwise I guess I'm too long. But it's an interesting thing about AIG. You know, we all know they had this huge problem because they took these enormous risks, because they were just kind of doing it the easy way and looking for very secure ways to insure. But actually, they have an enormous wealth of data, and they could be much more profitable and have a broader portfolio of risk, and that wouldn't have exposed them so much to the financial crisis. And that's exactly what they are doing. So that goes very, very deep.
Great. Thank you, Charles.
All right. Good morning. My name is Charles, but today I'll be Patricia. Okay. It's great to be Patricia for a day. And actually, she is a great friend of mine, and so she called me yesterday, and it's great to be here. I work at VMware, and I manage a team on the R&D side. Over the last couple of years, I was responsible for the data management, data strategy, including big data, at VMware. And as you know, cloud has been the theme for our company. And now we have a double click of cloud we call software-defined data center. So that's a new cloud. And so I think the topic is quite relevant. The intersection between cloud and big data is interesting. So hopefully I'll both represent kind of a company view as well as maybe give you some of my personal take on these two concepts.
Great, thanks. Piyush?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Piyush Malik. I come from IBM and represent the services arm of IBM. So a little bit of background about myself. I've been in the BI, business analytics, and big data industry. Big data is a very new term, but I've been in the information management industry for the last 24 years. And over these years, I've done a lot of strategy work, a lot of consulting, and building teams around the world. So I specialize in services. And talking about services, prior to IBM, I was with PricewaterhouseCoopers, leading their information integrity practice, and since then, BI and other stuff at IBM. Last 2 years have been phenomenally important for me as well as for IBM, when I was really surprised and pleasantly surprised when our CEO got up and said, hey, business analytics is one of the top 3 priorities, and in fact, ever since January 1 of this year, she's been talking about big data. So we have been working on big data from our software side. We have a distribution of Hadoop. We have offerings on our hardware side, on our software side, but from the services perspective, I represent that division of IBM which helps customers extract value from the massive amount of data that they've been generating and collecting, and also fast-moving data that gets generated from machines. So all of that comes together in creating service offerings, and currently manage a team of virtual consultants around the world who come together to help clients solve their analytics and big data problems. So talking about, that was about me and what my company does. There's a lot more in terms of what IBM does about analytics and big data. Hopefully we'll get to that. But specifically around managing big data in the cloud, cloud being cloud, mobility, and big data are the buzzwords and a lot of hype around it. How do we translate that into reality? Reality is when you are able to extract value and generate that value to increase, to improve the lives of common people. Not only profitability, but also improving lives. So that's the mission that I feel is important. And even though the term big data may be recent, people have been dealing with lots and lots of data. They may not even be able to store it, but they've been collecting it and they've been discarding it. And it now is it's now possible through the technologies that are made available to do it cheaply, more efficiently, and with predictive capabilities. So I'm all excited about this topic and look forward to the discussion.
So to start off, maybe we can just talk a little bit about how these two topics are related, or these two technology solutions are related. In what ways does cloud enhance our ability to leverage big data analytics? Is there a symbiotic relationship between these two? Let's talk about that as maybe a starting point. Who wants to take the lead on that one?
So since I have the microphone here, I'll just keep going. Then you can. So there is definitely 2 points. Everybody's talking about big data, but how many of people have actually deployed big data solutions? So let me poll the audience out here. they'll call for some audience participation here. How many in the audience, by a show of hands, have your companies have been involved in big data deployments in production? 1, 2, 3. All right. Small number. I'll cite an IBM survey that we did last October. Around the world, about 1,200 executives responded from about 96 different countries. And what we found was only 6% of the surveyed population had deployed one or more big data projects in production. Others were either experimenting with it, educating or getting educated, or just justifying and doing proof of concepts. And that too, 48% was that category. So essentially, what we're finding is that hype is slowly translating into reality. And so that's on the big data side. On the cloud side, making it virtualized, making it not on-premise, having software as a service, that's been the mantra for quite some time. I would say companies like VMware have been there. Of course, IBM has had offerings in this space as well. But the combination of cloud and big data brings a great promise, because that makes companies who do not have too much money at their disposal to do it cheaply and with much agility. But there are issues to be overcome, and we'll talk about it hopefully downstream. But that's something which is very promising.
So I'll add a couple points. I think the two concepts are very independent of each other, but at the same time they are relevant in a couple of ways. Even if we just look at cloud in its narrow definition, which being public cloud, software delivered as a service over the internet. The first is the access to the big data technology. I think the need for big data solutions to bring value to a company or an individual is not limited to those biggest companies. A company of every size, or even individual consumers, can benefit from the insights of the data. And not every company, especially the company of small size, have the money to create their own infrastructure. Therefore, a cloud-based solution make big data solution more accessible to more people. And second is the fact that cloud exists means there are many data centers across the world in different geographic locations. That also means the data sources become everywhere. So if I am an enterprise and I need to create a big data solution, not all the data are actually on-prem anymore. And they can be sitting in Salesforce, they can be sitting in Workday, they can be sitting in the 27 different SaaS providers that I'm using, they can be sitting many other places. And how do I have a solution to combine all these data sources to feed into my big data solution become an interesting problem. So those are two.
Yeah, that's a great example when we look at healthcare, where I play in. There's a lot of need to do, for example, cancer research, but the data that you would want to access is going to be distributed throughout the world in terms of research centers as well as patient data. So great example. Paul?
Yeah, and then you want to analyze this data and you have to get it in one place. And now you have the question, do you want to put it in the cloud or on-premise? Let me give you a little bit controversial opinion here so that we have something to discuss. I think there's a clear hierarchy. Big data is much more important than the cloud. Big data is like the change from horse carriages to cars or the steam engine. It's a real revolution, like the Industrial Revolution. And cloud is just the way how we deliver it. And you have never heard the CEO of IBM talking about cloud, but now she talks about predictive analytics. So I agree the cloud helps big data, and especially when you want to start out and try something or for testing. But for a really high-end deployment, you cannot do it in the cloud. You can do it hosted and on demand and all of that. And maybe we can do it in a software-defined data center one day. But I think the high-end stuff does not happen in the cloud, and Watson also doesn't happen in the cloud. We are experimenting with Amazon with the high-performance cloud. Amazon brings out a new cloud that's high performance, and it is as fast as on-premise. The problem is still that you don't have a persistent store, right? The compute resource, the virtualization of the CPU and the virtualization of the storage are separate. And they are not optimized for each other. So you have ephemerical disk that's there and that you can associate, and it's solid state disk, and this is very, very fast, and it competes with on-premise speeds. But what is if it goes down? Then you have no guarantees. And now it depends on what you want to do. If you want to do big data in the sense like you want to do it in Hadoop, which is anyway a batch approach, no problem. But if you want to do real-time big data, like the examples I gave you at Bill and Melinda Gates, or you want to do risk analytics in real time, you're an oil company and you want to know somebody's at the perimeter of your facilities, is this a threat or is it just a mechanic that got lost? Well, it wouldn't work to do that in the cloud. But if you do a Hadoop scenario, it can be very well done in the cloud.
Okay.
If I may just add on to that, Paul, one thing is big data is not only Hadoop.
No. That's
right.
why I'm saying.
So Hadoop is synonymous with the big data in a lot of circles, but let me demystify that. So there's a lot of technologies out there. Hadoop is just one of them. Second, you talked about Watson. Many of you have heard of Watson, so I wouldn't talk about it, but one application that Watson was put to use was for medical services, right? And that too, there are a number of use cases, whether it is for detecting how better treatments can be found for cancer, or how to prevent readmissions, or why readmissions are happening. So, but one use case of Watson being commoditized and being available to every doctor through a mobile app, I think that's one which is being worked on, will leverage some form of cloud. So it's
maybe
gonna get
on
there.
demand. Is it really cloud? Is it real?
Yeah,
it's
not the real cloud. Yeah, I'm not advocating
It's a
anything,
hosted
but
solution.
it's a hosted solution, absolutely.
Yeah.
And given how many, what a powerful machine was required to answer those Jeopardy questions, I mean, you don't need that for the doctor, right? But at the same time, it's a system, deep QA system that has to be trained for a particular application. And right now, I mean, I see in great application in healthcare, greater applications in financial services, and many more industries which are coming down the line. But definitely, it's ripe for adoption.
All right, and then let me say that too. Is Salesforce, I ask you now, is Salesforce a cloud solution? Yes or no? I'm not so sure. It runs on a relational database. It's very proprietary. You can't mix it with Amazon or with anything else. It's not really a public cloud, and it doesn't do virtualization in the sense of a public cloud. Say it again. Right, but my point being is, if you have a relational database, you cannot virtualize it. Nobody can do that. So it's not in the strict technology sense. It's not really a cloud, and you cannot move resources from one to another. You think of it as a cloud because it comes out as an on-demand solution, and the same is true for Workday. Just to give you an example, so there will be hosted solutions, of course, and on-demand is growing, but the cloud and what we talked before, a software data center means virtualization and general purpose virtualization. And that I don't think you would be, it will take a while till Watson will be able to run on that. And then another point, and that is one big point of big data is streaming, data coming in real time. You want to analyze your point of sales data, or you want to analyze a video feed and to see what's going on. And I don't know of anybody doing that seriously in the cloud.
All right. So I think it's a great discussion, and let me just add to the entertainment value here. I'll throw a controversial statement, which I don't even believe in myself, but just throw it out there, which is, I work in big data, but if you take a contrarian point of view, big data is really nothing new as well. It's been an evolution that has been going on for the last 40, 50 years, where we want to build machines with data to be smarter than man, right? And to go beyond where our human intelligence can take us to, and augment our ability to making decisions. And it seems what's new is a new kind of a buzzword to characterize this ongoing trend, but I do not see any disruptive or discrete change that has taken place in the last 5 years. There is no suddenly, the ratio of data or the brand new models that came out that didn't exist before. So on the other hand, given we are in the cloud conference, just to defend cloud, yes, it is also a buzzword, but I do see it is a discrete change where the how value is delivered to the customers is different from before, whether it's infrastructure or whether it's software as a service. Before, you are giving packaged software like SAP or Microsoft does to the customers. Now you are delivering it in a discretely different model. So, so there are different arguments you can make in terms of significance between the two things.
Okay, Piyush?
Yeah.
So it is two big data guys versus one cloud guy on the panel here, right? So one question I had for you, Charles.
I pretend to be a cloud guy.
Was it Charles or was it Patricia speaking?
We have Patricia's EMC technically, and Charles is VMware, just as a note to our...
Okay, all right. So I appreciate the entertainment value out there, and I hope the audience does too. So just to add to this mix and get the conversation going a bit further. You say big data is nothing new. Yes, I agree from the volume perspective. Volume has been increasing, but the awareness about that the data existed and to derive value from that data and use that insight to improve the business performance, people have been striving to do that, but not able to do until the MapReduce and Hadoop technologies made big data popular. And that led to the movement that we all go by the word big data, and there's tons of startups in this field, tons of NoSQL databases and hybrid technologies, and much more to come. This is still an emerging field, guys. This is still a very, very nice area for innovators to be. And I know Paul from previous panels that I've been with him on. At that time, he used to be SAP, and now he's an innovator and inventor talking about his technology. I hope we get to hear more about Saffron. But one technology I'm very, very passionate about is the streaming technology, which, for all you know, IBM has technologies in every field. So InfoSphere Streams is the product that originally was used for defense purposes and counterterrorism measures. More than that, I won't be able to talk. But it's been used for analyzing streaming data coming from, for example, patients which have the sensors on their body, and the streaming data is coming at 1,000 readings per second. It's impossible for a human being to actually, or a nurse, to be able to analyze that data and make sense of it and predict whether that patient, where that patient is going. But in neonatal ward at University of Ontario, we have been able to use that technology to save preemie babies. We have used the same technology for counterterrorism measures. We have used the same technology for video and audio surveillance in real time around telco switches. And I can give many, many more examples, but some of the client names I won't be able to say because of confidentiality reasons. But this is a technology I'm very passionate about, and that's part of big data. So big data is not only big data at rest, it's big data in motion and big data in place. And converging all of that in one platform, there are platforms available like the IBM Big Data Platform, which brings everything together. Not to sound as a marketer for that, but what I'm saying is this did not exist 3 years ago.
And what are some of the hurdles? Because when we talk about healthcare, for example, and that streaming data, it's impossible currently to get that into an EMR, for example, to capture it for maybe later research. So some of the data integration issues I know in healthcare are huge around big data and being able to run analytics. It's a simple barrier that we still have to clear. What are some of the other hurdles to make these solutions reality that people should be aware of and be trying to address, because that's a business opportunity out there?
Absolutely. Paul, you want to go first, or should I continue?
Go on with the hurdle. I want to see the world optimistic. I tell you how we do it then.
Okay.
You talk
All right.
about the hurdle.
So definitely the hurdles exist. All new technologies have a lot of promise and a lot of hype. The hurdles, especially in healthcare, around the data being available, but the agency is not willing to have the same data standards and being able to ingest that data. I had a vision and a dream of being able to go anywhere in the world and being able to access, if at all I fall sick, my medical records should be available. That hasn't happened. And trust me, I have run global teams with my consultants, my team members going to different parts of the world every week, and it just happens that they fall sick. And it's so tough to get their medical records. If somebody falls unconscious, what do you do? And if only we had those standards in place, if only we had, technology exists. It's the human beings which have caused the hurdles. It is not agreeing on principles to do that, especially in the EMR field. So I'll leave it to Paul to talk about the positives.
So standards and interoperability requirements would be one limitation.
Yeah, I think EMR, it will happen. It's just a question of politics. People have to be forced, or there will be one company who takes over. And I am an old guy, I remember there was the same discussion with relational databases. How can we exchange data between them? And all those problems have been solved. I think, let me say, Ashish asked about what Saffron does. So we are an associative memory. And that means we have a natural intelligence platform that works like the brain. And we can analyze data from the business warehouse, structured data and unstructured data, social. And that in itself is something jump. This is a jump. This is something discrete, because we didn't have social before. We were not able to understand our customers, what they feel, what's their motivation when they talk to each other. And so we will be much better in understanding the needs for the customer. We will deliver the products better. We will get away from this broadcasting PR. There's a very, very interesting thing going on in the world now. We have this, I'm sure you watch Mad Men. I am a fan of it. I love it very much. But this was a couple of 50 years ago. So we are moving to personalized PR, to really understanding the customer and combining what's going on in social with the transactional data, and it will make products cheaper, it will make the delivery cheaper. We will even learn from the customers about new products. There will be a lot of customer engagement in developing new products. That's what I see for big data, and that's very, very new. And also the growth in data, and the growth mainly comes from the web, and it comes from text, and of course from video. This growth we haven't seen 10 years ago. There was no Moore's law with regards to the data growth, and Ashish talked already, and that is a topic in itself, RFID, smart meters. If we want to solve the problem of sustainability, we have to be able to read and to understand electricity usage and react more or less in real time.
So micro-segmentation, essentially, to a large degree, are many of the things that you're talking about, and that we believe will be applied to healthcare, not just in treatment, but in insurance policies, for example.
Personalized treatment, understanding at
Yep.
the personalized level, yeah. I think that's the new part, personalization. And that is a very deep topic. That needs the right technology, and it also needs the right type of analytics. It is a new type of analytics. That's why we at Saffron believe so strong in this brain-like thinking, in automation of cognitive thinking. It's different than statistics. It's single people. We are not statistics. We are not comparable. So we also need a new way to analyze this type of data.
Okay. Charles?
So I'll add two hurdles. One simple one and one more profound one. I think the simple one is the infrastructure. I think for a working big data solution or system, it does require a large amount of infrastructure for it to work effectively. It's just the name of big data suggested it itself. And I think this is a very area where a cloud or software-defined data center could help, whether it is on-prem or off-prem, to be able to have a more efficient, more shared infrastructure that multiple users can use. Now the second hurdle is more profound, because I don't know the answer, that whether that hurdle will ever be overcome, is do we think the machine will ever be doing everything that a brain could do? You know, you mentioned the associative memory and all that. I don't think there is a model that describes how exactly our brain works. Now, there could be two answers to that. One is no, the brain is irreplaceable. And what we do in big data only augmented our abilities. So that means this is, the machine will never be as smart as man. Or, yes, the machine will take over. And that will be a more scary world. So, if the utopia of a big data world is that all the decisions in the world are made by the data and the automation that you build on the data, then I think it introduces more profound problems that we need to deal with as a society.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Are there questions from our audience or points that you want to raise? We haven't turned over to anything from the audience. Anybody out there want to raise a question or put forth a point? Okay, well, we'll jump back into ours. No, we're actually close to our time limit, but when we look at the agility factor, one of the things that I know Charles, your alter ego wanted to raise was the concept of agility and the fact that cloud helps to increase the agility in running big data analytics. Do you think that, first of all, how will you define that agility, if you can, in Patricia's absence, in cloud and big data? And does cloud really increase agility in those big data analytics?
Right. So maybe I'll give a couple examples.
That would be great.
Now, I'm not an expert in this area. I think Paul and the other panelists are probably more knowledgeable. But in terms of what I know, VMware acquired a company called Cetus, which is a cloud-based online analytics service. And this allows, it's a little bit similar to Google Analytics, but it does a bit more in terms of the deeper machine learning algorithms and so on. It basically allows you to upload data in multiple different fashions into the cloud, whether building certain scripts into your application, or uploading the logs, or other method, FTP, big chunk of data over. And then it has a very intuitive UI, allow you to drag and drop and doing different manipulation and visualization of the data set to gain insights. And this is available to essentially anyone, whether you are a consumer, prosumer, small company, big company, you can all use such services to help yourself. And I think their largest customer base are the gaming companies. A lot of smaller gaming companies that can use this service to try to find patterns which users are more likely to pay, and how do you get more revenue out of your players. And there could be many other applications for such a service. So essentially, this is an example where you can make big data solutions more accessible, more agile to users of different sizes.
Any other perspectives on this?
Yeah, so a couple of examples. We talked about healthcare and insurance. Let me talk about the retail, and you already brought out entertainment. So retail can benefit a lot from personalization. And think about your shopping experience, how enhanced it becomes if you are browsing a website for, let's say, you're browsing for a car, and from there you jump on to browse for an audio system, and you then go on to Amazon.com. That site knows what you have been doing, and it basically gives you recommendations. Recommendations very similar to what Netflix has been doing in terms of your viewing behavior and your browsing behavior, and recommending what movies you should be watching. So these two industries have benefited a lot from big data. And whether this will lead to anything like cognitive computing, whether this will lead to emergence of new computers which will think by themselves and make human beings irrelevant, well, that's for the science fiction authors to talk about. But the reality is this science, this data science, and this big data is making a lot of things possible which was not possible earlier, and I'm very, very excited about it.
Okay. Paul, anything to add on that before?
Yeah, I personally believe machines will be as smart as we will be, and it will be in this century. And one example is that the last big Grand Upper challenge is Synapse, and it is to build a machine that has the compute power of the human brain. And in 2018, IBM plans to be there, and at the moment it's the compute power of a rat. But even if that is still a while ahead, the problem that Charles talked about is a very real problem. And this is personalization, and you have been predicted. You have been profiled. We all get profiled at the airport, but I can profile you by just looking at what you play. And this is actually a very good thing. Let's think about the positive side of that. And we have heard it, Ajit said you can buy cars easier. But we have to be also aware, and the machine does not yet have to be as good as a human being. We will be predicted, we are profiled, we are understood by a machine. And like I said before, I'm an optimist. I see the positive side of it. Sure, there's some privacy issues and all of that, but I'd say that is also a separate discussion. But I think privacy is a blip on the radar screen of history. I grew up at the countryside in Austria. It was a little village. We knew everything about everybody. And then I moved to Vienna, and we lived in an apartment, and I didn't know all the neighbors in the house. But now we live in the global village. So we have to be, and I think the next generation, the digital natives, they grew up with this, that privacy is very different than our generation has seen it. And they accept and see the advantage of being profiled and understood by a machine.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, privacy, I just wanted to add here, definitely privacy and security is one of the hurdles. We didn't get to talk, but I was on a panel, I was in a discussion at Stanford 3 weeks ago. And we went on for an hour talking about privacy and security in big data. So I think we are being given warning by our host.
Yeah.
So let's try to wrap it up. And Greg, over to you.
Yeah, I would just say, is there any one prediction that you would make that's a little farther out than anything we've talked about today? To close, if you would say anybody in this audience could work on, this is where we're going to be, and the farthest point out you can see.
Okay, I love predictions. I have given already a couple of them.
Yeah.
So I believe that cognitive thinking will be automated as much as we have automated the pocket calculator. Like when I grew up, there were no pocket calculators. We didn't use them at school. At university, we started to use them. And now they are 500,000 times faster than a human being. So in the very, very near future, 5 years at most, we will have intelligent agents, and they will be mobile, of course, and they will talk to each other, and they will understand what our shopping preferences are, where our friends are. They will give us hints, what they have done, where we could go and meet in a restaurant that we all like, or something like that. So we will have automation of cognitive thinking, and it will be intelligent, it will be autonomous, and it will be distributed, and it will be very, very personalized.
All right, so I'll continue with the science fiction theme here.
That's what we're looking for.
So no, it's just my previous comment, my own science fiction theme. I think one of the biggest revolution, if there is a revolution on the big data side, contrary to my earlier comment, I think it's probably on the sensor, the proliferation of sensors everywhere. So my prediction is in this century, everyone will have an implant in their body, at least one, maybe more than one, that constantly collecting data. Every baby will born with one, and that's going to be an interesting world.
Okay, thank you.
And just
Piyush?
to continue with that science fiction theme, and actually it's much closer to reality. Paul talked about IBM's brain project and DARPA challenge, and yes, it's right now at the level of a machine, a chip being capable of equivalent to a brain of a rat right now. But think about it when it'll be like a human being's brain, and think about the possibilities there. Human beings, I call that as augmented technology, augmenting human beings' capabilities, and think about it, the productivity gains we'll have in the world. Think about it for public good, what that could do to remove poverty, to remove hunger, to remove all the ailments that are in the society today, and there'll be no crime. That's my vision of the future with this.
Okay. Let's give a big thanks to our audience, or to our panelists, from the audience. And we all hope that those views of the future come true. I think the immediate future is going to be lunch, and we have then a keynote speaker that'll be coming up next. So let's all go ahead and grab lunch. Thank you much.
Thank you.